The YUN Image AudioBook, Rip Van Winkle.
Whoever has made a voyage up the Hudson must remember the Catskill Mountains. They are a dismembered branch of the Great Appalachian family, and are seen away to the west of the river, swelling up to a noble height, and lording it over the surrounding country. Every change of season, every change of weather, indeed, every hour of the day, produces some change in the magical hues and shapes of these mountains, and they are regarded by all the good wives, far and near, as perfect barometers. When the weather is fair and settled, they are clothed in blue and purple, and print their bold outlines on the clear evening sky. But, sometimes, when the rest of the landscape is cloudless, they will gather a hood of gray vapors about their summits, which, in the last rays of the setting sun, will glow and light up like a crown of glory. At the foot of these fairy mountains, is a little village, of great antiquity, having been founded by some of the Dutch colonists in the early times of the province. In that same village and in one of these very houses, there lived, many years since, while the country was yet a province of Great Britain, a simple, good-natured fellow, of the name of Rip Van Winkle. He was a kind neighbor, and an obedient, henpecked husband. And a curtain lecture is worth all the sermons in the world for teaching the virtues of patience and long-suffering. The children of the village, too, would shout with joy whenever he approached. He assisted at their sports, made their playthings, taught them to fly kites and shoot marbles, and told them long stories of ghosts, witches, and Indians.
Once upon a time, in a land far away.
Wow! He was surrounded by a troop of them, hanging on his skirts, clambering on his back, and playing 1,000 tricks on him with impunity. And not a dog would bark at him throughout the neighborhood. In a word, Rip was ready to attend to anybody's business but his own. But as to doing family duty, and keeping his farm in order, he found it impossible.
That's stupid!
In fact, he declared it was of no use to work on his farm. His fences were continually falling to pieces, his cow would either go astray, or get among the cabbages, weeds were sure to grow quicker in his fields than anywhere else. There was little more left than a mere patch of Indian corn and potatoes, yet it was the worst conditioned farm in the neighborhood. His children, too, were as ragged and wild as if they belonged to nobody. His son Rip, an urchin begotten in his own likeness, promised to inherit the habits, with the old clothes, of his father. He was generally seen trooping like a colt at his mother's heels, equipped in a pair of his father's cast-off galligaskins, which he had much ado to hold up with one hand, as a fine lady does her train in bad weather. His wife kept continually dinning in his ears about his idleness, his carelessness, and the ruin he was bringing on his family. He shrugged his shoulders, shook his head, cast up his eyes, but said nothing.
Get out of my house!
This, however, always provoked a fresh volley from his wife. So that he was fain to draw off his forces, and take to the outside of the house, the only side which, in truth, belongs to a henpecked husband. Rip's sole domestic adherent was his dog Wolf. For a long while he used to console himself, when driven from home, by frequenting a kind of perpetual club of the sages, philosophers and other idle personages of the village, which held its sessions on a bench before a small inn, designated by a rubicund portrait of His Majesty George III. Here they used to sit in the shade through a long lazy summer's day. From even this stronghold the unlucky Rip was at length routed by his termagant wife, who would suddenly break in upon the tranquility of the assemblage and call the members all to naught.
I'm sorry, so sorry.
His only alternative was to take gun in hand and stroll away into the woods. In a long ramble of the kind on a fine autumnal day, Rip had unconsciously scrambled to one of the highest parts of the Catskill Mountains. He saw at a distance the lordly Hudson, far, far below him, moving on its silent but majestic course, with the reflection of a purple cloud, or the sail of a lagging bark, here and there sleeping on its glassy bosom, and at last losing itself in the blue highlands. Evening was gradually advancing. The mountains began to throw their long blue shadows over the valleys. As he was about to descend, he heard a voice from a distance, hallooing,
"Rip Van Winkle! Rip Van Winkle!"